Hey guys, how's it going? So UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales just wrapped up, and I'm going to give you a rundown of the card and what happened this event, so let's just jump straight into it. Opening up the prelims, we had Tecia Pennington versus Luana Pinheiro. So I said that Tecia Pennington was going to take this one, and I said it was going to be by a decision, and I was correct about that. I thought it was going to be a bit closer. It was actually pretty one way from Tecia Pennington. Very impressive performance for her. Round 1, Pennington starts chopping at the legs straight off the bat and lands a nice head kick as well. She's sort of targeting different parts of the body with these kicks. Although Pinheiro did look a lot crisper in the boxing, she was landing big on the guard of Pennington and sort of punching through it. But Pennington just in general did look busier this round. She was blitzing in, landing a clean combo before using her head movement to duck out of any counter and then just chipping away at the legs from range. However, in the closing moments of the round, there was this weird sort of slip knockdown that occurred. It was technically a knockdown, I think. I don't even know if they scored it as a knockdown. But Pennington went down. On the way down, she hit Pinheiro with a mean up kick straight to the chin. So maybe that sort of negated any consequence of that slip knockdown. But there was that. But I would still say it was a Pennington round. Round 2, identical to the first round, with only really kicks being thrown in the first 2-ish minutes, and then the hands start to fly later in the round. And like the first, Pinheiro is getting these weird like slip knockdowns. She did it again. This one was a little more obvious as a slip. Pennington has this habit of over swinging when she does, and Pinheiro, all she has to do is tap her on the side of the head and she goes down. But she does pop back up again. But even though Pennington did get a takedown at the end of the round, Pinheiro did look a lot better in the striking this round. She was landing crisper combos, sort of bringing the fight to Pennington. So I would say that was her round. Round 3, the front leg of Pinheiro is starting to wear the damage from just the constant calf kicks and oblique kicks throughout the fight. And she is visibly looking more tired this round. She did gas out pretty hard around halfway through the third. And ultimately, it was Pennington who was landing the biggest shot this round, with a spinning back fist coming to mind as sort of that big shot for this round. Pinheiro did try and make it close with some grappling and even got 3 takedowns near the end of the round, but Pennington kept standing back up and it wasn't enough to override Pennington's good striking this round. 29-28 Pennington. Pinheiro really only won the second, but it was a pretty fun fight to start the card off. Next fight. Next up in the prelims, we had Hyunsung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. So I said that Park was going to win this one. I said it was going to be by a second round submission. He did win this one, but he actually got it done in the first and made it look pretty easy. So on the feet, Park was pushing forward the whole time, getting Hernandez back against the cage and then landing sort of 1 or 2 punches before backing up a bit. And then just midway through the first round, he gets Hernandez in a clinch against the cage before picking up, taking him down, slams him down the ground, and then just instantly takes the back and with relative ease slips his hand in and locks in this rear naked choke that puts, well, it doesn't put Hernandez out, but he taps after about like 5-6 seconds. Very, very good win. There's not much to say because it was over so quick, but man, Hyunsung Park looked absolutely crazy this fight, and Carlos Hernandez is a very, very good opponent. He's not a slump in the ground either, so the fact that he was able to make it look so easy on the ground is a testament. So yeah, very, very fun fight, crazy finish. Next fight. Moving on, we had Elise Reed versus Denise Gomes. So I picked Elise Reed by decision. Looking back, I don't know why. I did think that Gomes, while she is very powerful, she doesn't really have that knockout power, and if she can't knock her out, I think Reed is very skillful at out-voluming people to the decisions. But I underestimated Denise Gomes because she won this one by a second round KO, and it was a very, very nasty KO. So round 1, Reed was looking decent to start with. She was blitzing him with these flurries, these combos that were pushing Gomes back. But Gomes just lands one overhand and it visibly puts Reed out on the feet, where Gomes just starts tagging her with a big hook and an elbow, gets her up against the clinch, keeps doing that. And then from there, Gomes takes down Reed and just holds her there for the rest of the round. It was around that switched at the flick of a dime when she landed an overhand on her, because she never really found her composure after that fight, and she suffered for that, getting out wrestled by Gomes for the whole round. Round 2, very early in the round, Gomes lands hard on Reed and puts her down and out, but the ref doesn't stop it. This was kind of a late stoppage, or maybe it wasn't, but Reed took a lot of punishment before they actually called the fight. So Reed went down with this punch, and then she manages to get back up again, only to get dropped again and just beat up some more on the ground with some very, very vicious ground and pound. It was a very brutal finish. Good win for Gomes. I think this is probably one of her best performances yet. And the knockout was really, really nice, and it was starting this card off on a crazy foot. So yeah, very fun fight this one. Next fight. Moving on from that, we had Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. Now, I said that Luana Santos would get this one done by a decision. She did get this one done, but she actually submitted Lisboa in the second round of this fight and did it with, you know, relative ease. She kind of dominated in the ground in this one. In the first round, very low volume to start the fight, with Lisboa actually landing some pretty nice combos on the feet and sort of winning. But Santos very just quickly ends up taking her to the ground and just holding top position, moving to side control, just really any dominant position she was chasing, and she was threatening submissions, mainly a arm triangle, but she was, you know, testing out some other ones. And then we move into round 2. Exact same thing happened with Santos taking Lisboa down a minute into the round and holding her down while Lisboa tries to reverse, but never really got that chance. And then in the closing minutes, or seconds I guess, of the second round, she hits an Americana submission, starts cranking the arm backwards, and with 2 seconds left, Lisboa taps. She probably could have rode it out, I'm going to be honest, but she was in a position where she probably couldn't see the clock, didn't know that was so close to the end of the round. And yeah, very, very impressive submission from Luana Santos. Bit of a boring fight. All it really was a battle for dominant positioning, with sort of Lisboa being held down and not much really happening on the ground. But a very, very fun submission to close it off. So yeah, next fight. And next up we had Yader versus Matheus. So I said that Yader was going to get a second round KO for this one. He did win this fight, but it was actually by a first round submission, which I didn't really expect. I knew that he was sort of a decent submission artist, but he never really, his strong suit was always his striking, but he made it look very, very easy in this one. The fight starts, both fighters are landing somewhat equal volume on each other, but it's clear straight away that Deval's strikes are just landing harder, especially his kicks to the body. They were making these loud reverberating slaps every time they'd land. And he was just letting his hands go a bit more in that fight. Matheus did put up a good fight on the feet, but midway through the round, Deval grabs the leg of Matheus as he throws a kick and just pushes it up, trips him backwards, follows up, lays on top of him, and then on the ground, Deval lands some really meaty ground and pound, forcing Matheus to sort of turn around, give his back up, and then while sitting on top of him with his back, he bends over, locks in this rear naked choke, puts Matheus out within the sort of halfway point of the first round. Very, very impressive win. He really, really showed that anywhere on the feet or on the ground, he is very dangerous, and coming off a Contender Series win, I think this is a very, very fun and impressive first showing in the UFC. So yeah. Next fight. Next up on the prelims, we had Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. So I picked Thiago Moises to take this one by a decision. I thought he would just be slightly better, but realistically it was sort of a coin toss, odds-wise. I was actually wrong. Jared Gordon won this one, and he won it very, very dominantly. Round 1, instantly Gordon trips Moises and holds him down in top position for a good portion of the round. Moises manages to reverse himself out and separate on the feet. And while on the feet, he's sort of doing decent. While on the ground, Moises managed to cut the four-headed Gordon open, and when they returned to the feet, the blood started leaking down to Gordon's face, which I was a bit worried about. I was thinking, you know, when fighters are distracted by or get blood in their eye, they often get clipped and finished, but Gordon was standing his own very decently. He wasn't really letting it get to him, and while Moises was starting to pick it up on the feet, Gordon lands his perfectly timed hook that puts Moises down. He dives in, lands 1 or 2 more shots, but he was already out from that hook, I'd say. Finishes the fight. Very, very nasty knockout win. Impressive win for Gordon. Moises is kind of a skill test for the lightweight division, and he made it look very, very easy, that fight. There was about maybe 10 seconds where Moises was actually dominating in that fight. The rest of it was one-way traffic. Very, very good win. Next fight. And now we move on to the final prelim of the card, Gabe Green versus Matheus Camilo. Now I said that Matheus Camilo was going to take this one by round 2 submission, and he almost did. I'm not even joking when I say he was about 3-4 seconds away from getting a round 2 sub. It was actually Gabe Green who won this one by a round 2 submission. But it was sort of a dominant performance, but we'll get to it. Round 1, Camilo's just ripping to the body of Green straight away. He's laying these big meaty hooks to the body, sort of kicking at the body, just targeting the body of Green. Green catches him when he comes in. He knocks him down and makes an argument for winning that round. But outside of that, Camilo did get a takedown at the end of the round and secured some control time, as well as just was landing a bit more, I feel like, in the first round. So I would have to give that one to him, but it was very, very close. Round 2, Green comes out throwing the kitchen sink at Camilo. He sort of throws this mix of punches, pushes him up against a cage, and then tries to get a flying knee in, but he doesn't manage. Camilo sort of recovers and gets Green on the ground, where he sinks in a really nice head triangle, but he squeezes it for about like a minute and a half. Green's in this choke for a while, not a minute and a half, but maybe like 30-ish seconds, and he kind of gasses out. His legs give out, his arms give out, and he ends up rolling over, giving up his back, where Green takes that opportunity to wrap in a rear naked choke, and then submits Camilo with that. And Camilo sort of tapped a bit fast. I did see it as sort of like a little panic tap, because it wasn't really squeezed yet. It was in, but it wasn't squeezed. And Camilo just instantly started tapping to that. Good performance from Green. He looked probably the best he has in his whole career in this fight. And Camilo, it was kind of disappointing for someone who was so dominant at Fury to sort of get fraud checked, I guess. But yeah, fun fight regardless. Next fight. And now onto the main card, we had Julian Erosa versus Melquizael Costa. So Julian Erosa, I said that he'd win this one by a round 2 submission win. I was actually wrong. Melquizael Costa took this one in a decision in a fight that I said that Julian Erosa would win through grappling. There was not any grappling in this fight. Not saying he would have won through grappling if it did, but this fight was a striking battle, which I was surprised at, from two very good wrestlers in my opinion. But stayed on the feet. Round 1, fight remained standing for pretty much the whole duration of this round. Erosa's striking was notably worse. You could instantly tell. He kept his hands by his side and kept getting tagged with this sort of straight right or a jab down the middle. He was never really protecting himself this fight, but especially in that first round, he just kept getting hit. But he was kind of shrugging it off. He was doing this thing with his hands where it's like, oh, that didn't hurt, that didn't hurt. And then when he does it one time, Melquizael Costa winds back and kicks him in the head. That sort of throws him off balance and wobbles him a little bit. And it was definitely a Costa round. Erosa just didn't do anything to convince the judges at all to give him that round. He did get a takedown in the last 30 seconds and held down Costa for that time, but really, the big shots from Costa were what were winning him that round. So, round 1 Costa. Round 2, significantly better round for Erosa. He's landing some of the bigger shots in that round on Costa, and he's turning up the volume as well. He'd push Costa against the cage and land maybe 2 or 3 piece combo, and then sort of reset and do it again. There were moments where Costa did make it close. He almost got a guillotine on Erosa when he shot him for a takedown, and he was sort of locking that in pretty tight. And then he was also landing big shots on Erosa every now and then. They weren't often, but he would clip Erosa, and it would show on Erosa's face that it was doing a decent bit of damage. I'd say round 2, Erosa. Round 3, Erosa looked a lot better at the start of the round. He's holding Costa up against the cage, but when trying to take him down, he gave up position. Erosa had completely gassed out. They get back to the feet, landing nice in volume. He's sort of tagging Costa with like constant shots, but none of them are doing any damage. He's not sitting down behind any of them. He's so gassed out that none of them really impact Costa in any significant way. And at the same time, Costa is also kind of gassed out. He's ducking and weaving, dodging everything Erosa's throwing at him, and hitting Erosa with like maybe 1 or 2 counter shots every now and then. But once again, these aren't going to be fight finishing shots. Ultimately, goes to the decision cards. Costa takes it. I think they gave him 2 30-27s and then 1 29-28 for this one. It was a very, very fun brawl, very fun striking match. They weren't afraid to go in and try and grit down and beat the shit out of each other, and that's respectable. But man, this was a very sloppy fight at the end, but still very fun to watch. Next fight. Moving on, we had Dustin Stoltzfus versus Nursulton Ruziboev. So, I said that Nursulton Ruziboev was going to take this one. I said by a round 1 knockout. He did take this one, but it got very, very close. Stoltzfus brought it to him. Ruziboev won this one by a decision. Very, very, not close, but it was a decision nonetheless, where we usually see him being able to finish his opponents quite early in fights. So round 1, very patient performance from Stoltzfus. He's not really going in. He's sort of waiting on the back foot, trying to catch Ruziboev with counter shots. He did end up dropping Ruziboev with a head clash, and then quickly locked in a guillotine, where he had it very, very tight for about a minute and a half. Ruziboev was trying to fight it. He looked pretty unfazed. It reminded me of Shavkat Rakhmonov in the fact that it was a very tight submission, but Ruziboev just seemed not to mind. It was really strange. He survived that. And then outside that, at the end of the round, Ruziboev was landing some seriously big shots on Stoltzfus. But the head clash knockdown did look really bad, so initially I did have it for Stoltzfus. When I learned it was a knockdown via head clash, a little less obvious for him, but I had to give it to him. Round 2, on the feet, Ruziboev is piecing up Stoltzfus with some big shots that are breaking through his guard. Stoltzfus did hold Ruziboev down for a good bit in this round, but when he got reversed, Ruziboev would just land some really big ground and pound on him that would deal some serious damage. It cut open the face of Stoltzfus, caused some really bad swelling, and these shots were like everything behind them. He was like going in to try and get a TKO here. Ruziboev did keep blatantly cheating. He's done it throughout his whole career. He'll just grab the fence, like not even try and be sneaky about it like Leon Edwards or something. He just grabs the fence. Stoltzfus had like him in a sort of heel hook position, trying to pull him back down again. He just grabbed the fence. So there was that, no point deduction or anything, but he did cheat technically, but that was definitely a better round for him. He was landing the bigger shots, so Nursulton Ruziboev won that one. Round 3, on the feet, Stoltzfus is getting outmatched quite badly. Every shot that Ruziboev would throw would go straight through the guard of Stoltzfus and push him back, wobble him, and just break the guard of Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus had a big moment at the end of the round where he was able to implement a bit of grappling, but it wasn't enough. The whole round, Ruziboev was pushing him back with his power shots, and in the end, Ruziboev ended up taking it by a decision. Very impressive performance from both fighters. We don't usually see Ruziboev go to a decision, neither do we really see Stoltzfus. But Stoltzfus brought the fight to him. Ruziboev also looked really good. He dealt with a lot of adversity in this fight. And yeah, very fun fight. Next fight. And now on to the next fight on the card. We had Sodiq Yusuff versus Marion Santos. Now, I picked Sodiq Yusuff for this. I just thought he'd have the experience advantage, and Marion Santos looked really bad in his most recent performance with Francis Marshall. He can't let himself get out-wrestled in that one, and Yusuff does have some pretty good wrestling. I was actually wrong. Marion Santos actually took this one. I didn't know it was going to be at lightweight. I might have actually changed my pick if I did, but, you know, I locked it in. That's me. I'm not going back on it. I was wrong about this one. Santos win. Very good win. I think this is probably his best performance. Obviously, the Carnoffley knockout was very good. But this one, he showed that he can go 3 rounds against someone who is sort of a long-standing opponent in that division. Breaking it down, round 1, very low impact round from both fighters. They're not really throwing much, but what they're landing isn't the hardest. They're not really landing these power punches. They're more just trying to go off volume. Overall, this round probably went to Santos. He looked busier. He mixed it up. He was kicking different parts of the body, landing different punches. He'd target the body every now and then with punches, which were sort of showing to drain the cardio of Yusuff later in the fight. Round 2, Santos had a moment at the start of the round, landing a clean head kick and then followed up with a flying knee that didn't really land. Through the rest of the round, he was landing nicely as well, especially at the legs of Yusuff, at one point taking his legs out from under him. He kept the calf kick a constant threat throughout this fight. Very smart move. In the final part of the round, he spent holding Yusuff against the cage and landing some decent shots there as well. So I had it 2-0 Santos. Yusuff did have his moments in that second. He looked a lot better than in the first. Round 3, same story as the last 2 rounds, fairly low volume, no punches that are going to completely alter the course of the fight. Santos' leg kicks are really starting to show on Yusuff now, who would be thrown off balance with every leg kick Santos would throw. And then in the final minutes of the fight, Yusuff had Santos up against the cage, but Santos was just slapping the back and face of Yusuff. He wasn't really in any real danger of getting taken down, and it just seemed like Yusuff was stalling for time at that point. So ultimately he went to the decision. He got 2 30-27s and a 29-28, which you could argue that Yusuff won a round, but it's hard to tell because it was such a low volume fight with no really impactful shots, and throughout the whole fight, Santos just looked like he was in control. So very decent fight. Not the most entertaining, but it was a good challenge for Santos, and he managed to overcome it. So next fight on the card. And now we're going to actually skip the co-main event because it fell through, and I'm not even joking, because Rodolfo Bilato had herpes. I'm not joking. And move straight on to the main event. Woo! Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Now, I said that Gilbert Burns was going to get it done. I thought his experience was going to sort of overpower. He has good wrestling as well. I thought the well-roundedness was really going to sort of put a limit to Michael Morales' striking. I was very wrong. Michael Morales took this one by round 1 finish. Very, very impressive from him. And he made it look pretty easy. So, in the fight, straight off the bat, you can tell that Morales is using his height advantage to keep Burns back at a distance and circle around on the back foot. But Burns is finding these moments to blitz in and land a 1 or like 2-piece combo. We see early that Morales is waiting till Burns backs into the cage before rushing in and throwing like crazy, with Burns evading pretty much everything he threw the first couple of times he did it. Burns also had some good counters this fight. It was kind of underrated, the fight he was putting back. Whenever Morales would lean in to throw a straight down the middle, Burns would sort of loop over the top and hit him with something of his own. But Burns got tagged pretty big with an uppercut around halfway through the first round that caused him to hold up a high guard against the cage before Morales sort of started beating on him. Burns managed to take Morales down, but when they separated, Morales landed a big hook around the side of Burns' guard. Burns backed up against the cage again. He started shelling up again and holding his hands to his head, while Morales just started teeing off, really throwing everything he had at him in a flurry of punches that eventually ended up dropping Gilbert Burns. Burns actually recovered from this somehow, and he tried to sprawl out, but it got put back up against the cage. Burns got pushed against the cage again, where he just kept up this high guard, shelled up again, and Morales finally was able to put him away via a TKO. Not an amazing performance from Burns. There were moments in the first where he did sort of look like the striker we knew Burns as. But he didn't really show as much grit as he usually does. The old Burns, when pushed up against the cage, wouldn't really shell up like that and let his opponent tee off on him. He'd try and create an opening to sort of get out of that. Morales, really, really good performance. What do I think next for Burns? I think most likely to be 10th or 11th ranked when the new rankings come out. I think his next opponent should be the winner of Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland to really see if Burns is even in the top 15 anymore. And I think that would be a good challenge against an opponent that he hasn't fought yet, I don't think. For Morales, real big step up. This fight was a real experience challenge for him to see if he can go up against some of the more seasoned welterweights, and he stepped up and did it well. 18-0 official prospect in the welterweight division. I think because he's undefeated, it will push him up a bit higher. So I think his next matchup should be somewhere around the top 5 area. So I have two options. My favorite one would be the loser of Usman versus Buckley. That's a very easy way to shoot his name up into stardom, and really test him if he's up there with the top 5s. If not that, I think just based on style, I think a Leon Edwards matchup could also be really fun for someone like Morales. A really fun, exciting, explosive striker versus a more refined, technical striker in Leon. But yeah, I don't really know where Morales is going after this, but it's definitely going to be good. So guys, that was it. Those were all my picks for UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales. How did we do this card? Not great. Of my predictions, I got 45% of them correct on who would win, and of those I got 40% of the methods correct, so not great this week. And Cam tied with me. He got 45%. I think that's up from last week, but honestly I don't know at this point. Pretty shocking week for both of us. Where would I rank this card? Well, it was a very, very good card performance-wise. There were a lot of really good performances. The name value wasn't there, and the fact that the co-main dropped out last minute, which was the only really other recognizable names on the card, I need to put it below some of the better ones. So I'm going to put it at the top of C tier just based on the performances, but there was no name value. It's in the apex. It's just unfortunate, but yeah, no UFC next week, so I'm gonna maybe put out something random next week, or not put something out at all, I don't know. Yeah. Bye bye!